Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. After 18 years in the BC legislature, a fixture moves on.
What an extraordinary opportunity. I am so fortunate.
Why John Horgan is being honored by all political sides. And the mounting heartbreak for Syrian and Turkish people living in BC.
There's a lot of red tape, bureaucracy around how to use international aid.
The ongoing efforts to send relief to those in need. Plus, British Columbians react to Netflix cracking down on password sharing in Canada.
I'm not gonna buy it, let's put it this way.
Not a fan, to be honest.
I would not pay the extra.
The frustration from some and what you need to know.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. We begin tonight with a devastating fire in North Vancouver that's killed a former city councillor and his daughter. Flames ripped through the home early this morning, and as Saurabh Sandhu tells us, condolences are pouring in.
I heard a loud bang, and I think it was something that just blew up. So I came to the living room, all I could see was flames.
Early this morning, people living in this North Vancouver neighborhood were woken up by a blaze in this corner house.
I thought at first it's our balcony. I didn't know it's their house.
The flames were so intense, fire crews could see them from far away. The victims are identified as former City of North Vancouver councillor Robert Fernley and his daughter.
Bob was very dedicated to his job. He really cared about the community. I was able to work with Bob to open a new library at the City of North Van. He was a big part of that. And dealing with some housing issues, he was progressive on that front as well. And so, he contributed a lot, and he should be proud of the service that he did at the city.
In a statement, the city's current mayor, Linda Buchanan, says, "I'm incredibly saddened to learn of the passing of Bob and his daughter. Bob was an active member of our community and dedicated many years to public service, having served on City Council from 1996 to 2011. 6.5 minutes later, when firefighters reached the scene, they say half the home was engulfed.
There was they had wires involved that entered the house, the electrical wires that were arcing at the time. Because of the heavy fire load, we weren't able to make entry until we were able to knock the flames back.
And it was a challenge to get inside.
And there was a small explosion that the crews had to deal with as well while they were getting ready to enter.
But when they did enter, they made a grim discovery. Mounties say several other people inside the house were also taken to hospital.
We didn't know them really well, but we would say hi from time to time. I know every time summertime we're by the pool, they would wave from us to us from their balcony. So it's really sad.
Police say it's too early to say what sparked the fire, but investigators think it may have started in the garage. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, North Vancouver.
We have breaking news tonight outside of Western Vancouver Island. The Chief and Council of the Ihatasut First Nation have declared a formal state of emergency over the deadly impact of drugs and alcohol in their community. The First Nation says 6 young people have died after overdosing on their streets in the past few months. It adds nearly a quarter of its people are addicted on the street, underhoused, or are children in care. It's calling on the BC and federal governments for help to try to save more lives. We will have more on this story on our late newscast at 11 o'clock and on our website, cbc.ca/BC. Former Premier John Horgan gave his last speech to the BC legislature today as he takes his final bow in the political arena. Horgan has resigned as MLA for Langford-Juan de Fuca after stepping down as Premier 2 months ago. As Mira Baines reports, Horgan brought both sides of the aisle together, honored for his candor.
You may recall last fall I was the Premier of British Columbia.
Former Premier John Horgan says he's back to regular life after a long political career. He hasn't been in the legislature since David Eby became Premier, and now he's hanging up what remains of his political career, resigning as Langford-Juan Fuca MLA effective next month.
The final day, St. Patrick's Day seems good, but it might be the end of March. I haven't really settled on that, but I will be leaving my seat before the end of the fiscal year, if I could put it that way, and I look forward to whatever the world has in store for me from here.
He says he's healthy.
I'm healthy. I don't have cancer, sorry. Yeah.
He was first elected in 2005 and has been re-elected 3 more times. In 2014, he became leader of the BC NDP and led the party to victory in 2017, defeating Christy Clark and the BC Liberals. With his warmth and ability to connect with people, he navigated the BC NDP towards capturing more of the center of the political spectrum. But health problems took a toll on Horgan. He announced that he would leave his post as premier this past summer after a battle with throat cancer, his second bout dealing with it. David Eby became premier in November.
He's shown that a guy who struggled as in his younger years, lost his dad, raised by a single mom, can hold the highest office in our province, and can be respected by friend and foe.
Political rivals expressed their admiration, although BC Liberal leader Kevin Falcon was not at the legislature.
It never went unnoticed the care that John would show all people in this building. And so when he talks about being a part of this place, he lived it.
Political watchers say it signals a shift in the government's direction.
I think it's another indication that this is a progressive transformation of the party to a newer generation.
Eby's government has 6 months to call a by-election after Horgan resigns officially. But there's still lingering speculation that a snap spring election could be called instead of a scheduled election in the fall. Press doesn't think so, but says a by-election will be one to watch.
And then I think we'll look at the campaign itself really as a dry run for the forthcoming general election.
Still today, the focus was on John Horgan's final farewell to political life and an important legacy in BC politics.
I have no regrets about the way of the world.
Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
We have a grim update now on the earthquake disasters in Turkey and Syria. A Vancouver woman we spoke with earlier this week had 5 family members trapped under the rubble. She says 4 are now dead and another is still missing. Yasmin Renea has more on her loss and the push for support in this province.
You really think it's not going to happen to your family, to your country?
Vancouver's Nural Sumbultepe's family in Iskenderun was trapped under the rubble for days after an earthquake destroyed their building. Now, even more heartbreak.
Just yesterday, my nephew, his wife, and a 9-month-old baby, they were confirmed dead and they were buried yesterday morning.
Sumbultepe says her sister-in-law has also been killed, her body still under the wreckage.
She was the best. If our country was full of people, women like her, our country would have been in better shape. I loved her. I just love her.
Her brother has not been found yet and is also feared dead.
Oh, it would be an amazing miracle if they find my brother alive. He's 65 years old.
The earthquakes in Turkey and Syria have claimed more than 20,000 lives. Thousands more are now homeless. Some emergency crews have shifted their focus from rescuing survivors to demolishing buildings with little hope they'll find more survivors. Yet through the darkness, glimmers of hope here in BC. A Turkish bakery owner will donate a portion of this month's sales to organizations in Turkey.
As a community here in Vancouver or in Canada or everywhere, we're trying our best to help people over there.
He estimates he can send about $10,000. And while aid efforts to Syria are hindered by its ongoing civil war, A North Vancouver elementary school class will sell candy to raise money for the Syrian White Helmets Emergency Response Group.
I have a really special class who is very involved in community service and, always trying to think of new ways to help.
People a world away trying to help against overwhelming tragedy. Yasmin Ghaneya, CBC News, Vancouver.
We'll have more coverage on the rescue efforts in Turkey and Syria later in the show, including a live interview. The region passed a grim milestone today with 20,000 people confirmed dead. Well, the province has unveiled a new approach to treating long COVID. Around 4,000 long haulers receive treatment at clinics across BC, but in April, those clinics will go completely virtual. The CBC's Joel Ballard now on why that's got some worried about a lack of resources for a still mysterious condition.
Lynn Davies has always been active. Daily dance classes, hiking, cycling. But on February 2nd, 2022, that all changed.
It's one of those dates that you always remember.
Davies caught COVID and was eventually diagnosed with long COVID. She now suffers from headaches, body pain, extreme fatigue, and rashes, among other things. Since October, she's been attending the post-COVID recovery clinic at Vancouver General Hospital, one of 4 in the province.
The post-COVID clinic has been absolutely fantastic for me.
Patients are supported by a team of experts, from doctors to physiotherapists to social workers. But at the end of March, the program is transitioning to a virtual clinic, and patients will no longer have access to clinic doctors.
I think that that's a bit misguided. I'm fortunate that I have a family doctor, and I have a family doctor who's very good and very supportive, but she has very little knowledge of all of this because it's just one tiny part of what she does.
In a letter, the program says patients will still be able to access educational and management support, but should see a family doctor or a walk-in clinic for any symptoms. Advocates say that's not an option given BC's family doctor shortage.
Not every member has a family doctor. Some have been taking at least over a year since they got sick, trying to find a family doctor to support them through this illness.
For its part, the province says there is no longer demand for regional clinics as referrals have dropped. It says the virtual clinic will provide streamlined support.
This is increasing those services, increasing the research, increasing the education, and making that a permanent investment.
Some long haulers agree.
I don't think it's going to be that much of a harm to the program because the program is really about learning to deal with what we have and how to carry forward in life.
However, she has a family doctor, which she admits makes the transition less uncertain. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Surrey Board of Trade is calling for a full tax review from the province, saying the current model is making the cost of doing business for many businesses too high.
The amount of taxes that we have to pay, especially for businesses, is absolutely removing our ability to sustain entrepreneurship within British Columbia, also in the face of other cost of living challenges.
Members of the business community say the complexity of doing taxes in the province is taking time away from focusing on growth and innovation. The Surrey Board of Trade is hoping a tax review will result in a simplification of the tax code for entrepreneurs and civilians alike. Well, parents of Vancouver's Elsie Roy Elementary are speaking out over conditions at the school's playground. As the CBC's Arthi Thayaparan explains, their concerns center mostly on mud.
We're tired of bringing our children to line up in a mud pit every day to see them come home covered in mud.
Jay Markowski is one of several parents at Elsie Roy Elementary School speaking out about the struggle to clean up the flooded, mud-filled playground. The school's playground is located on David Lamb Park, a public space maintained by the City and Park Board.
There's literally moats at every entrance to the school going in.
Kids love to play in the mud, but as a parent, we don't necessarily love it as much, especially given that the children are then having to go back into class. They're wet.
When we come in the morning, the kids want to run into their spots, and I'm always like, don't run, you're going to slip. And I'm sure there are people that have fallen.
Parents say the drainage issue in the area has been constant for over 10 years. They say the city, school board, and park board are mucking about instead of addressing countless complaints to mitigate the issue.
The city says, sorry, it's a park board issue because the park board manages it. And when you talk to the park board, they say we don't have money.
In a statement, the park board said no issues were found in a safety inspection of the park and minor maintenance is currently underway. But parents say the park needs better drainage for the safety of the kids and the entire community.
This is usually covered in water up to here and mud. I was even thinking of building some little wood bridges at night and covertly popping them in so that our kids can go to class without muddy shoes.
While the mud piles high and rain continues to collect at the park, Elsie Roy's families say they'll continue to search for answers to clean up their playground. Arti Dayaparan, CBC News, Vancouver.
And an update on this story you can see here. After it was published this morning, city crews were spotted filling holes and cleaning up some of the mud at Elsie Roy Playground. Lawyers across Canada have voted overwhelmingly in support of preventing the use of non-disclosure agreements to silence victims of misconduct and abuse. The motion was put forward by a Vancouver lawyer.
Really, at the end of the day, by shining a light on this really important issue, we're just creating transparency within organizations and within institutions, and we're hoping that this is going to lead to more accountability.
The resolution was passed in the annual general meeting at the Canadian Bar Association, with 94% of lawyers voting in favor. Stark cites the scandals of Hockey Canada and Harvey Weinstein as cases where NDAs have been used to silence those who come forward with allegations of harassment and discrimination. The resolution does not change the law, and campaigners say there's still work ahead, asking governments to take this resolution into account for legislation.
Canada is, as far as we know, the very first jurisdiction for the legal profession to take a united stand like this and say, we should not be using these to cover up misconduct.
McFarland says the Can't Buy Me Silence campaign will continue to lobby for legal reform by going province to province, as well as discussing the motion at a federal level. Well, 3 teens have been charged in connection with an unprovoked attack in Vancouver on Saturday. The victim was 29-year-old, a Vancouver Island man who was visiting downtown. He suffered serious injuries. 15 and 17-year-old boys from Abbotsford and an 18-year-old man from Langley have been charged with assault causing bodily harm. There's close, and then there's this. Canadian skier Jack Crawford has won the gold medal in the men's Super G at the World Championships today by a nail-biting 100th of a second. The 25-year-old beat out a number of top-ranked skiers at the competitions in France. It's not the first time Crawford shocked the world of alpine skiing. It was nearly 1 year ago that he captured an improbable Olympic bronze medal in Beijing.
It feels amazing, and I know Canadians have always been pretty good at World Championships, but for my first win to come out of World Championships, it's amazing. It's a childhood dream. Being on the podium and kind of showing my speed this year, it's been amazing and something that I can hold my head high about.
Crawford is just the 4th Canadian man to win the gold since the Alpine World Championships began in 1931, and the first since the last Canadian won the men's Super G 6 years ago. Canadian women have captured 11 world titles, but none in 20 years. Some big changes for Netflix in Canada and the way some of you may log in. What was once encouraged is now the subject of a crackdown. Anita Bathe is looking at the future of the subscription service and how some BCers are reacting.
Do you use someone else's Netflix account and not pay for it? About 100 million customers are sharing their password, and Netflix, they're cracking down on it. So if you share your account across multiple locations, expect to pay an extra $8 a month. So what do British Columbians think about it? Let's find out.
I think I would stick with it in my main location, but my friends would probably drop off.
Oh, you're booting the friends.
Not a fan, to be honest. It's I don't know. Back in 2017, they said that sharing password was a kind of type of love. There's a tweet out there that talks about that, and so this sudden reversal is kind of dodgy.
My parents pay for it, so
Mine do too, so
Taken care of, hey?
it's taken care of.
So we don't really have to worry about.
I'm not gonna buy it. Let's put it this way.
Not gonna buy it? No?
No.
Do you share your password with anybody?
Yeah, I share my password with my family, my boyfriend, so we all kind of use it. So I feel like probably just one person will use it, and the rest no.
People pay. The company has to make money, right?
So mixed reaction there on the streets. Sophia Harris now has more on why Netflix is making the move.
Many Canadians knew it was coming, but Netflix's announced crackdown on sharing accounts has still rattled many customers.
What am I going to do now? I watch everything on Netflix.
On Wednesday, the streaming service started warning customers it will soon prevent them from sharing accounts with another household unless they pay an extra $8 a month and have an upper tier account.
Netflix account is for people who live in the same location. Just got the
Did you get a warning?
Yeah.
Morton Rand Hendrickson shares his Netflix account. He got his notice during this interview.
On my phone, it says I have to go to my TV and change my settings.
And when Rand Hendrickson tuned into Netflix, he was ordered to choose his primary address by February 21st to block other households from using his account.
It doesn't feel like the kind of thing a company that really cares about its customers is doing. It feels more like, let's take this opportunity to rake in more money to boost our profits.
Netflix admits it is looking for more cash. In a statement, the company said over 100 million households globally share accounts, impacting our ability to invest in new TV and films.
Dive into Disney Plus.
The streaming market is getting crowded with competitors, so some tech experts say Netflix needs to raise cash to up its game.
I think the reason that they're doing this is they got to be more competitive. They got to get people to start paying because it's expensive to produce content, and I think they're taking a gamble here.
So will the gamble pay off?
I would have to really think about it.
Rand Hendrickson says he plans to reassess his Netflix subscription, as there are now plenty of streaming services to choose from. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is back with us. Joe, I don't know about you, but my dad still pays for my Netflix.
You know what? No judging, because my two sisters and I switch back and forth every year with who pays for ours. So what are we going to do?
I don't know. We're going to have to start breaking out the bucks here, breaking out the wallet.
Yeah, I think I have to consider it as well. You know, we have talked about an elaborate plan where we tap in. I think you can tap into the IP address of the main owner once a month. So we're thinking maybe a movie night where we all get together and try. Anyway.
Okay, you go down that rabbit hole and let me know how it goes.
If the
cops don't come to your house
I
first.
know, right? Well, if you're all listening, now you know my plan. So just giving that away. I got some winds to talk about tonight. I know we've been talking a lot about the potential for some gusty winds. We are now under a special weather statement for southern sections of Metro Vancouver. Just in the next couple of hours. Right now, I'm not seeing those gusts. But as the cold front comes through in the next few hours, I'd sort of say around midnight is our best shot of seeing some southerly winds hitting southerly sections of Metro Vancouver. So you can see that purple showing up. That's equivalent to sort of 50 to 70 kilometer per hour gusts. They'll die down quite quickly, but we'll also watch for those gusts across the strait. There's the special weather statement. Again, really just for southerly facing sections. Also, as that cold front tracks eastward, the Coquihalla under a snowfall warning for 15 to 25 centimeters overnight tonight into tomorrow. So there's a lot of weather with this cold front that will also bring the showers back tonight to Metro Vancouver that will linger through Friday morning. And as that cold front comes through, it's going to be one of those days, Anita, where we get the blue skies, dramatic cumulus, maybe some hail, some of my favorite days, but I'll try and break it down coming up.
A Netflix and chill kind of day.
That is 100% what it is.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, the saga of the Stanley Park bike lane is poised to pedal on. Late last year, the new park board voted to get rid of the temporary bike lane and asked staff to come up with a permanent replacement. Now, though, the park board is set to vote on an entirely different set of proposals. So, of course, when things get complicated, we bring in Justin McElroy. He's live with us. Justin, what's being decided on now?
Yeah, Anita, people might be wondering, haven't we had endless debates over the last 3 years and votes and consultations on what this Stanley Park bike lane is going to be? But park board commissioners say that now they have 3 proposals on the table, and whatever they commit to on Monday is what they're fully committed to for some time to come. So let's take a look at this map of the 3 options that are on the table on Monday evening. So one is having a semi-permanent bike lane on the west side of the park. That's where it's hilly, windier, and there's less options for cyclists to have different options. One is for a bike lane around the entire park that would be semi-permanent, and then a third one, no bike lane, but having some areas where there are safety concerns to have some structures in place. So what has happened essentially is staff have looked at the possibilities here. They say these would provide compromises, safety and accessibility issues that people have brought up with the 2 bike lane options that are in place, but they've also given the option of no bike lane whatsoever. So it'll be one last fierce debate on Monday, and then commissioners promise that'll be the end of it.
So why isn't a permanent separate lane being considered?
Well, that was the thing that was discussed and brought up by the ABC commissioners as something they wanted staff to study, but they looked into it, staff did, and they said that it would cost somewhere between $40 to $100 million to put a permanent lane in for the entire length of Stanley Park. So instead, they're advocating for this semi-permanent structure instead. There would be no cones under this plan for any of them, but instead it would be those raised cement structures instead. Park Board believes that would give the flexibility needed, it would be lower cost and achieve the best of both worlds. However, during this entire debate, both sides on this haven't seemed to agree on much. I expect much the same for discussions on Monday. We'll see which way the vote goes.
And whichever one can get you out on a bike, biking around Stanley Park, eh, Justin?
You know, the seawall is great for me personally, but each to their own.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Anita.
Coming up, search and rescue crews continue to comb through the ruins in communities across Turkey and Syria. Amidst the chaos and confusion, a small moment of relief. We'll explain everything next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream tonight. The Canadian Armed Forces Soldier On program provides support for ill and injured veterans. Participants recently took to the ice and faced off against former NHL players. The idea of the hockey camp is to give soldiers and former players an opportunity to share stories and talk about mental health.
My name is James McPhee. Still active duty, 37 years in, and I've known Soldier On for a number of years, followed them through our internal advertising and also just knowing guys that have participated in Soldier On. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I consider it's an unprecedented opportunity to meet with colleagues that have undergone some of the same challenges, both mental and physical, and to have a bit of a morale boost and also lessons learned and see what they've gone through to actually keep themselves moving and going in a positive direction. I think it's unparalleled for me to get this opportunity to be on NHL ice and play with guys like Laurie Boschman and Chris, and NHL alumni. I mean, their humility and their ability to ground themselves and compare and make it comparative to us, which is they're excelling to be the best they can at what they do. We try to excel to be the best they can at what we do. But they've endured some of the same hardships or issues that we have, which is what do you do when you get injured and trying to get back in the lineup, trying to get back into active duty, trying to get back on their team, and then what happens afterwards? Like, what do you do when you transition? When you've aged out or you've injured out, what does an NHL player, much the same transition questions that we have. And I think that's what Soldier On does very well for us is as much as on the ice is extremely fun, the off-ice activities and the time that we get to engage with other guys that have similar challenges, both with the NHL alumni and active NHL and our own guys, is probably unprecedented. It's really a positive experience.
What these men and women do on our behalf in the military, we're just so pleased and proud to be a part of it as former players.
Brad Mumbercat. I've been a combat engineer since 2004, so I've been in for 19 years, and I'm in my process of transitioning out of the military. So I work for the Canadian Armed Forces Transition Group in Borden, and I am on return to work right now, hopefully to get back in full-time in the near future. We had a little practice in the morning, and after the practice we got to watch the Senators practice in the afternoon, which was great. Next day came back, watched the Senators practice again. Then the alumni met us upstairs and we had a lunch, and we had a couple of the Ottawa Senators players come up and eat lunch with us, give us our nice fancy jerseys that Soldier On provided us. And then we came back and then watched the Islanders and the Senators warm up this morning before our game today.
Are you a Sens fan?
Yes, I am, yeah. So it was great to come here and watch.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about this game that you just played.
It was definitely fast-paced on their side of the ice, and they're definitely really good at passing the puck around, and we just kind of chased them around for the last 45 minutes.
Turning now to Turkey and Syria, where the death toll after 2 devastating earthquakes has climbed to more than 20,000. The search for survivors continues, but attention is also on getting relief to survivors. Briar Stewart is in the hard-hit city of Kahramanmaraş, where the evidence of death is all around and impossible not to show.
It's hard to comprehend the scale of loss here. But this single makeshift morgue makes it devastatingly clear. Everywhere you look, there are bodies, in bags and wrapped in blankets. Some look like small bundles being cradled. This man is carrying a 5-year-old girl, one of more than 12 relatives he lost. The building collapsed, he said. We tried to save them, but the building burned. On the floor of this sports hall, families come to identify their loved ones, killed in the middle of the night when they thought they were safe in their homes. This man lost 15 of his family members. A picture, he tells us, is all he has left. In Kahramanmaraş, neighborhoods lie in ruin. In the rubble, fragments of people's lives. The level of destruction looks and feels overwhelming, and in the air, the stench of death. There's no tears left in our eyes anymore, says this man, who's waiting for his nephew to be pulled out of this building. The bodies of 8 other relatives have already been recovered. But there are still survivors miraculously being pulled from the wreckage. Rescuers here found a young girl, an emotional moment when she was finally pulled out. Everything here looks chaotic. Traffic chokes the roads, often trapping ambulances, and it's residents who try to help clear the way. Throughout this city, sidewalks and medians are lined with people with nowhere else to go. Their homes have either collapsed or are too unstable to return to. Humanitarian aid is being handed out, including by 2 Canadian workers for the charity Islamic Relief.
It's very hard. It's obviously very hard. It's also a little heartwarming. You know, everyone that you just saw on the truck, they're all volunteers.
You can just feel the grief, but you can also see glimmers of hope every now and then, which is what is keeping us going.
It's those small things that the women say they have to focus on in a city and in a region consumed by disaster. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Kahramanmaraş.
The government of Canada is promising millions in direct aid to Syria and Turkey and says it will match donations to the Canadian Red Cross. But as Chris Brown discovered near the devastated Turkish city of Antakya, getting it where it needs to go will be a challenge.
The deeper you drive into Turkey's destruction zone, the harder it is for help to get where it's needed the most. In some cases, roads are too damaged, and the ones you can drive on are clogged. This is a 70-kilometer-long traffic jam headed to the ruined city of Antakya that even ambulances had difficulty getting through. With no police in sight, regular rules do not apply.
Although the earthquake zone is immense in some of the worst hit areas such as Antakya, there's only one major road that relief trucks can get in on, and it's gridlock chaos.
The driver told us he's carrying diapers, biscuits, and juice, and he's been stuck overnight. There need to be special lanes, said another, just for humanitarian supplies, like the bread he was carrying. Also trying to go somewhere, anywhere, were the newly homeless, families with nothing. We didn't have food or anything to drink, and we don't have any money, said this father. In the back of his truck was his wife, his cousin's wife, and their 7 kids. We're miserable. We're in the streets, and we don't know what to do. At least in Turkey, the world is sending help. Right next door in Syria, the complicated political situation has held up aid shipments. Some humanitarian supplies sent by the UN finally made it to Idlib, an opposition-held area that's largely suffered on its own. There are promises of more, but it's unclear when and how much. In Turkey, this is likely the beginning of a mass migration out of the earthquake zone, and for its victims, a reliance on handouts. God bless everyone who sends humanitarian aid, she told us. They're headed north, hoping other family members will give them a place to sleep and some time to figure out what to do next. Chris Brown, CBC News, near Antakya.
The Turkish Consul General for Vancouver is live with us now. Mehmet Taylan Tokmak joins us. Consul General, some people are saying there's a lot of red tape around giving, but what's the greatest need over there on the ground for British Columbians who want to help?
Good evening, Anita. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. Right now, we are trying to coordinate all the airlift of supplies from BC to Istanbul. The greatest need is actually, we are slowly approaching to the end of search and rescue phase. But then now we have to keep the survivors alive in cold, frigid temperatures. So the greatest need is to send some cold weather kits, tents designed for winter, actually, and sleeping bags. So, and this is what we are trying to MS here and also in Alberta as well.
And where is the best place for people to donate stuff like that, as well as donate money?
We have a warehouse in 580 Industrial Avenue, and we have everyday Turkish volunteers. They are sorting all the goods that it is being sent there, and they are making pallets, and then we load them to Turkish Airlines. On Tuesday flight, just in one day, we gathered 2.2 tons. And also today, we are sending, it's now just took off recently, 1.6 tons also. And we already have I think maybe 10 tons of supplies already. And so what we are going to do is that we are going to take things a little bit slower. And we will phase it, and because this is a long haul project. And on the other hand, for donations, money donations, we have, as the Turkish state, we are either taking donations for Turkish Red Crescent, which is the sister association of Red Cross. And also we have an emergency coordination agency, a governmental agency. It's called AFAD. And we have shared their account numbers in our consulate's social media as well.
That is very helpful, because I know a lot of British Columbians do want to help and don't necessarily know
Yes.
how. With this escalating devastation and the scenes that we're seeing on the ground in Turkey and Syria, how are you doing?
How I am doing? I'm nonstop running around trying to coordinate all these relief efforts. And until midnight, generally, I'm active. And this keeps my mind busy so that I don't need to think too much about what is actually the people are suffering back there. And generally around midnight, I have a chance to see what's going on in Turkey. And then it's more difficult. But I also feel that I'm lucky that my family is safe. My relatives in Turkey are safe. And then the feeling comes that, do I deserve to be lucky? And this is not a good idea, actually. I'm aware of that also. So this is strange mixed feelings. And all the Turkish people here who rushed to this warehouse, every night we have 100 people. And they're doing this too. But I think next week it will be psychologically more difficult for them too, because we are trying to not to look at the news. But eventually we see them, and it reminds us this magnitude of the destruction in our country, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Extremely hard to avoid and hard to have those feelings put on the back burner. Thank you so much, Consulate General in Vancouver for Turkey. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
The search for answers intensifies in Quebec after a city bus driver plowed into a daycare, killing 2 children and injuring many more. More from the community just north of Montreal next.
Today we went looking for buses with fare boxes clogged with $1 bills. It shouldn't be too big a problem. It still costs 85 cents to get on the bus, but a lot of people don't have the right change, so they slip in a $1 bill. We asked the drivers about their problem.
Real problem is such. Well, I haven't had any myself.
Aw, come on, there must be some driver who has trouble with $1 bills.
Dollar bills are my pet peeve. I get really upset when I see an article in the paper Metro sniveling and whining about people overpaying fares. They've come up with a system that exacts the most extra money they can out of people, and I don't think you'd let your grocer or your pharmacist complain about you overpaying your bills or the method in which you chose to pay your bills. I can't see why Metro seems to do it all the time.
Forgive him. He was locked out for 3 months. Time for another driver.
Coins jam. The dollar bills don't really jam that much. I think that's mostly management's problem with counting the money. That's where they're having their problems, because the coins, they just run those through a machine.
Oh, so they're going to have to hire people to count the individual dollar bills. Is that what you figured?
Most likely, yes.
Well, maybe it's time to see what it takes to jam a fare box. First, we'll fold a bill. Aha.
Yeah, it's caught down there.
But another bill knocks it loose. No big problem. So let's crumple one up.
Even that.
Still went through. Let's try one long ways then. Okay.
No, let's see, that's going to go right through, probably. Did it?
I think I've done it.
That's in there now.
Eureka! It stuck, and it only cost us $4. And to unplug it, $1/4.
There, it's gone through now.
Police in Quebec are still searching for a reason. Why did a city bus plow into a daycare in Laval, north of Montreal? The driver is facing charges that include first-degree murder. And as Jayla Bernstein reports, while the investigation moves forward, the community mourns.
Mementos, small gestures of comfort in the vacuum left behind after this stomach-churning nightmare.
These poor people that lost their kids, they didn't ask for that.
It's terrible. I'm sorry for all the parents.
All that's left is debris and a boarded-up hole where the bus smashed into this Laval daycare. 2 children are dead, 4 remain in hospital. The 51-year-old bus driver, Pierre Ni Saint-Amand, charged with murder. This group of men tackled the driver to the ground in the chaos after the crash. Premier François Legault reminded them to take care of their mental health.
I want to thank the men that were involved, all people who were involved right after, in the next seconds after it happened. And the only thing I can say is courage.
For the parents of the children who survived, mixed emotions. Their youngest daughter, 2 years old, was at the daycare yesterday.
It's difficult. We feel relief because our girl is unarmed, so she wasn't injured. But it's difficult to think about the other parents.
He says his two older daughters were friends with one of the children killed. The family is shaken. On the quiet street where the suspect lived, neighbors are reeling from the news. So far, there are no clear links between the daycare and the driver.
On saluait, il jouait avec ses enfants.
He says they would often say hello. He would see him with his two daughters in passing.
C'était quelqu'un très quiet, très calme.
She says he was very quiet, calm. They would say hello in the morning when he left for work on his bicycle. With many questions left unanswered, this neighborhood is doing what it can to grieve and heal. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Laval.
Burt Bacharach, one of pop music's most prolific songwriters, has died at 94. His legacy and impact after the break.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
A woman from Chile swam her way into the record books with a bone-chilling dip at the end of the earth. Barbara Hernandez completed the longest swim ever by a person in Antarctic waters on Sunday in water temperatures close to zero. She wants to raise awareness about the need to protect the Antarctic against climate change. The 37-year-old swam more than 2.5 kilometers in a bathing suit without protective grease or a neoprene suit. She spent about 45 minutes in the frigid ocean water. She also holds other open water and ice swim records. They don't call her the ice mermaid for nothing. No protective grease. Her back is very red.
I did note that, yes. And we were also discussing that protective grease is a thing for swimmers to that we didn't really know about, but perhaps should consider even on cold days here.
I did a quick Google. It does help with chafing and other things in the cold water.
That's great. That is very cool, actually. And Anita, funny enough, I was just looking at the latest reports coming out of Antarctica. January, lowest sea ice ever on record for January. So definitely a cause to be swimming for. I am tracking rain and winds tonight with the cold front that is quickly approaching. Look at the radar, bringing heavy rain as we speak to Tofino, just about to cross over to Port Alberni and Campbell River. And that is the cold front that will sweep across Metro Vancouver. Really around midnight is when we'll start to see the rain and the gusty winds. And we are under that special weather statement for southern sections of Metro Vancouver. Just wanted to show you the snow that's falling across the interior, Prince George, all the way through to Revelstoke. And we're watching for some freezing rain tomorrow morning in the northeast as temperatures warm up past the freezing mark. With that rain tomorrow morning, it will be quite steady. Here's 8 a.m. and you can see the green across Metro Vancouver as that cold front continues. Look at that lifting, though. I do think we'll see some sunshine through the afternoon behind that cold front, but it is going to be one of those afternoons where it's dramatic. We've got the dark cumulus against the blue sky. It should be quite beautiful. Some of those cumulus, though, may produce some small hail. That's usually our best shot of a thunderstormy kind of weather. We'll watch for some lightning strikes on the lightning detector as well. This system is also bringing another round of coastal snow, really catching up to the early deficit we have, but adding to avalanche concerns right across the province. Okay, breaking down the week ahead because there is a lot going on. Double digits tomorrow. We really won't see that cool down behind the cold front until tomorrow night. But tomorrow night into Saturday morning, notably cooler. There's the hope for some sunshine. Saturday was looking gray, but the latest models keeping that little window in through most of the day. So if you were hoping for 1 of 2 days dry, Saturday's your day, and Sunday does look like a bit of a washout with the next system to move in. Then notice temperatures drop as we get into a cold high pressure system for early next week. We'll get below the freezing mark, one of those cold but clear stretches. And keeping an eye on Thursday as we get out of that cold air. That may come with some snow. So we'll keep an eye on that one. That could be accumulating. No putting away the snow tires this weekend. That's all I'm going to say.
We're never ready for it.
We're never ready for it. No.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Coming up, turning kelp into a musical instrument. Victoria Mann shows us how it works and the music you can make.
We want people to leave our doors and say, I've overcome my trauma and I'm ready to move forward. Okay, my name is Dr. Quintina Berchi-Badolfo, and I'm the mental health clinical team lead here at Six Girl Services, and I'm a registered psychologist. When you think about boxing and martial arts, people tend to think that it's meant to get your frustrations and anger out, but that's not our main emphasis here. Our emphasis here is to be able to address the brain parts and the body parts and the nervous system that have been negatively impacted by trauma. We're trying to help get those systems online so that way people can actually live. They can actually be present in the moment to enjoy things in life instead of going numb or trying to self-medicate or self-injury behaviors. When a person is traumatized, the survival part of the brain goes online and every other part of the brain goes offline. And over a long time, it actually causes chronic disease and it causes harm. Research has found that fitness programs like yoga, martial arts, boxing, dance actually help individuals heal those different parts of the brain, and it helps individuals to be able to have their mind and their body reconnected, because when trauma occurs, they're disconnected.
I have more confidence in my physical health, appearance, and mentally I can deal with difficult situations when life gets harder.
Before I just kind of like stick to myself and not say anything, but since I'm like interacting with everybody here, it makes me better at interacting with my family.
When I come here, I feel good, feel motivated, feel proud of myself, you know. And when I get out of here, I feel good, feel brand new, like a new person basically.
There's been a lot of research around how trauma impacts individuals and how it carries on through generation to generation, and it's called epigenetics. If it's not healed in that person, it gets carried on. Well, we know with Indian residential schools, that generation didn't have an opportunity to heal. So every nation member has experienced trauma.
Kickboxing is very therapeutic. It's very healing. You need to connect your mind with your legs. You need to connect your mind with your hands. And then you need to put it all together. In doing so, you're present through every moment of it, and everything outside doesn't matter.
This is such a new approach to this that community members may not necessarily understand why boxing, why martial arts. That just seems like we're teaching kids to fight. Well, it isn't. It teaches them respect. It teaches them discipline. It's healing their bodies. It's healing their minds. It does open their perspective, open the doors for them to gain an understanding of who they actually really are and gain an understanding of their potential.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back.
And that's what empowered nations and empowered people to just literally steal land.
This is a consequence of your actions.
And it's time to give land back.
Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On March 8th, celebrate International Women's Day with Gloria Makarenko at the West Coast Leafs Equality Breakfast. Get your tickets at westcoastleaf.org. And dance away the winter blues with Corleone at Pop Capella 3 on March 3rd and 4th. Backed by a band of Vancouver's best, the Corleone Ensemble will take on your favorite hits. Tickets at corleone.org.
A Victoria man has found a creative way to make the most of his environment. Daniel Lapp walks to his nearest beach, picks up a piece of bull kelp, and turns it into a musical instrument. He recently showed us his latest creation, a kelp horn.
Oh, guys, sorry, they can hear it.
This just came from the breakwater this morning down in Victoria. And we just sort of hit the beach hunting for, nice, rich-looking, full of lots of color. After a day or two, they get white, and you don't really want to put your mouth on them.
So where does this idea come from? Were you just walking along the beach one day?
I was in Ireland during this big Irish session, and I had learned a couple Irish tunes on the trumpet. And I worked up the courage and pulled their horn out in the middle of this Irish session. Everyone rolled their eyes and was like, what's going on? So for like 25 years now, I've played lots of Celtic music on the trumpet. There's this ancient history of this kind of, not necessarily brass playing, but this blowing into a long tube. Here we go.
Very cool. Not sure I'm going to be taking up the kelp horn, but all the power to you. Okay, to Burt Bacharach, one of the most prolific songwriters in pop music history. He has died.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Bacharach wrote more than 500 songs performed by more than 1,200 artists. As a child, he hated piano, but his mother insisted. He worked as a pianist and arranger for star acts in New York until he decided he could write better songs than they were singing. Some of his biggest songs were composed with lyricist Hal David, and a string of his hits forever connect with his name with singer Dionne Warwick. Along the way, he won 6 Grammy Awards and 3 Oscars. Burt Bacharach was 94. Yeah, I think so many people didn't even realize how many songs he actually was a part of. The one that's been in my head all day, always something there to remind me. Maybe tonight, put on your favorite to honor the legend. Thanks for watching CBC Vancouver News. Have a great evening.